to the podcast version of 32 Bar Cut, the show, a series for performers, about performers, made by performers. Every week, we give audition advice, share personal experiences, and sit down with fellow colleagues in the performing arts to chat about their life in the industry. If you are hearing this message, you are not currently a subscriber and will only be hearing the first half of the podcast. If you would like to hear the full interview, including the Curtain Call series, you'll want to head over to 32barcut.com, where you can find a link to our Patreon page. There you will have exclusive access to the entire video and private RSS podcast feed, as well as other subscriber-only content. Thanks for listening. Without further ado, on to the show.
His name is Austin Scott, and there's a million things he has done. And today he is sitting down to chat with us about his life as a performer. Welcome to the show, Austin Scott.
Hey, Adrian.
Hey.
Thanks so much for having me.
We are so happy to have you on. I have a funny story before we get started. And I've been waiting to tell you this just live so I can get your reaction. But I was a reader in one of your auditions.
Okay, wait a minute, because I knew when we first saw each other for the first time, I was like, she looks so familiar. Have I seen her show or something? Which audition was it?
It was for Fiyero. And the reason I remember, they put you through the paces. You were in there for like half an hour, and didn't you leave and come back? And I was like, oh my God. Was this like last year? Because I've gone in for Fiyero like 3 or 4 different times, like in like different things. Was this like recently? No, I feel like this was maybe 2017. I think I had just started
2017.
Reading it. Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. That was a long process.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes. And then,
oh my God.
Yeah. So Small World, or Funny World anyway.
Yes. Oh, you've been holding on to this secret this whole time.
Holding
I'm
on to
gonna
this
drop
secret.
this bomb.
I can't wait.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Well, then, thank you for all your help in that audition. Appreciate it. Thank you for being such a great leader.
I hope I was helpful. I don't know. I mean, I was like, damn, they're really making him, stay here. But I just knew for sure you were going to get it. But who knows, There's still time.
Absolutely.
So how have you been? I know it's a loaded question because there's a lot happening in the world and has been for quite some time, but at least how are you today?
I am good. I'm good. Everything is like ups and downs, and there's good days and days that I'm still very grateful for, but they're a little bit rougher. But all things considered, I'm just very, very grateful. I'm in like a safe place. I've got my partner here, Alexa, with me. My family's healthy. Like all that is good, and the rest can just be figured out as I go. So, just feeling really, really grateful today.
Yeah, I think it's good to hear that, because it is a day by day thing. I think navigating this type of lifestyle, or even just this, the climate of the world. It's a day by day thing. Yeah.
No doubt. For sure. How are you doing?
Oh, how am I today? I'm actually having a great day. The sun is shining. We just had spaghetti for lunch. So I feel like it's a good day. Like I'm feeling
there you go.
Satiated and cheerful and, all the things. So
Are we talking spaghetti with meatballs or like meat sauce or just plain spaghetti? What are we talking?
Well, we gave up meat in November. So it's I follow this blog called Rainbow Plant Life, and she has like a lentil recipe. So you like take red lentils and you soak them, and then you cook them down, and it kind of has the effect of being like a bolognese. So that's what we had. I can't believe I have Austin eating like this with me, because he is a hardcore Midwestern. Give me my pork, my beef. Yeah, like
right. No, I feel it. That sounds delicious.
Yeah, it's tasty. It's tasty. So when we were chatting over a Broadway Plus event, you mentioned that you were a child actor. So what was that like? What was it like to be a child actor? Would you do it again? What are the pros and cons?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. Like I can only speak from that experience. Like I don't know what it was like to not be a child actor. But like I really don't have any negative things to say about it. I mean, I was very, very lucky to have parents that were super, super supportive and like never like pushing me to go after the money or like, anything like that, like never feeling used or anything like that. They really just like, whatever direction I pointed myself in, they just kind of got behind me and tried to support me, as long as it was, not a dangerous direction. But it was cool. Like I started really young when I was in like kindergarten. I think I joined this children's choir because like the woman had come into my class and had like asked us all to sing happy birthday and she thought I had good pitch. And so I joined this choir and I was such a shy little child. So I think most of the time I was just like mouthing the words along. I wasn't even singing the words. I was just kind of like, up there just like swaying and doing my thing. But something about that just like made me want to do more and like want to be in front of people more. So I did that like off and on all through my childhood and I only have positive memories of it really.
I was a choir kid too, but I was extremely shy. Like my parents forced me to sing in the church choir, and I was terrified, but I really loved to sing like at home. So I can identify with that, being pushed out there. And it's amazing because it kind of shapes you. And I wouldn't have had a career in singing at all if my parents hadn't pushed me to like start in church choir and everything.
Right. Totally. Yeah, I'm grateful for it for sure.
It's really great you had a positive experience too, because So did you go to a performing arts school as well?
No, I didn't. And a lot of people ask that. I went to just like a very basic public school with kids from like 3 different districts, I feel like. So it was a very kind of like eclectic mix of people. And I didn't even I did improv like all through middle school and high school as well. So I always loved improv. I didn't really do like a show with the school until my senior year, I think. So I was doing other stuff. Like I was on the basketball team that whole time. I was doing improv. I was like shooting independent films like outside of school whenever I could, doing like some community theater here and there. But I had like 2 rap groups. I had like 2 hip hop groups that I audio engineered for and I sang for and I rapped. I was just doing way too much. But it was really fun. I just kind of like had my hands on a lot of different things and just was trying to diversify myself as much as possible. But yeah, I finally did a show my last year of high school and was just like hooked. I was like, oh, I love musical theater. I can see this being a way forward for me. So I'm glad
I was curious.
Sure.
I was curious about that. If it was when you were doing all these things, if you were still deciding if you wanted to do musical theater, if you wanted to do TV and film or all of it or straight plays.
Yeah. I mean, I think for a long time, I thought of myself as a TV and film actor who like would sometimes do musical theater because I like to sing too. And so that was like an opportunity for me to get to act and sing. But I don't think I really thought of myself as a musical theater actor until I did that show, and it was Beauty and the Beast. It was I would play Gaston in Beauty and the Beast, and just like I just hammed it up and overacted my butt off the entire time, and just had so much fun with it. I don't know what had I not had that experience, I don't know if I would have pursued musical theater to the same degree. And like really, I only had that experience because I actually injured myself, and I had spine surgery when I was 17 from a basketball injury. So that took me out of basketball. And so I was kind of just like looking for other outlets. And the drama teacher at the time was like, we know you do improv. Like, would you want to come audition for this? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, let's do it. And so that in and of itself was kind of this like kismet. Like if it hadn't been for that injury, I may never have done the show. And if I hadn't gotten that show, then I'm, who really knows? But, it's kind of just like you can trace the seeds all the way back to like a, one choice or one event, that has led to where I am now. And so I don't know if I've ever really thought about that till just this conversation though. So I appreciate the opportunity to kind of put all that together. I'm like having revelations here. That's dope.
Man. Okay. I'm glad that I was able to bring that to your sphere. Yeah. I know I've thought about that too in my life because I had my background in classical voice. And I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't think my heart was really in it. So it didn't take much to sway me. But this one girl I was in grad school in Chicago, and there was a student a year ahead of me. And she sent all of the Black students a Facebook message that was like, look, they're doing Porgy and Bess auditions at Court Theater. And we were like, oh, okay. And so I just showed up, and it was a musical theater production of Porgy and Bess. Like the cast was stripped down to 14. And
wow.
That's how I got my start in theater. And if she hadn't sent that little message, I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah.
So it's amazing.
It's so interesting. It's so those little like forks in the road where it's like you can say, oh, that's interesting. I could have made a different choice. And who knows where that would have led. But that's so dope.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. So I am really curious about, so I kind of met you in 2017 or whenever that was when you were going in for Fierro. But then the next time I saw you, you were working with Austin, my husband, on the Hamilton tour. So like, how did all that happen? Like, what was your Hamilton audition like? Because I have gone in for Hamilton a few times and they really put you through it. Like, they're like, okay, you're like, this is the time. I've nailed it. I know it. And they're like, actually, we want to see you one more time. So what was your process like for Hamilton?
Yeah, I definitely had one of the longer processes. I've talked to some people who are like, oh, it's so funny. It took you so long. Like they called me in and the next week they just like, they needed to fill a role. So I was there. I'm like, that's so nice for you.
That's actually not funny. It's so funny that's not funny.
Exactly. No, I mean, mine started all the way back in like 2015, I think, before Hamilton even came to Broadway.
Wow.
I was shooting a TV horror movie in Sofia, Bulgaria, called They Found Hell, which is exactly what it sounds like. And they, my agent sent over the material. They're like, there's this new show, Hamilton. And I had like heard about it because I'd done In the Heights 2 times before that. So I like, was familiar with Lynn and everything. And I was like, oh, dope. Like, I'll go in for it. Alexander Hamilton as a rapper, that's going to be interesting for them to pull off, but let's go for it. Like, why not? So I had like nothing to go on. There was no Broadway soundtrack to nothing. I was asked to sing Dear Theodosia, and I was just given kind of this like little plunk, track thing. And I said, oh, this is about my son. Cool. So I put like a bundle of sweatshirts in my arm, and I just like sang to the sweatshirts as if it was my son. Just had no idea what I was doing, but going for it. I did not get a call back, did not hear anything from that. So I was like, cool. Then, of course, Hamilton became the phenomenon that it is. And I moved to New York, I think maybe like 6 months after that or something like that, and got called in for the first time for, I think, like George Washington and Lafayette Jefferson maybe. And, when they call you in, as I'm sure you well know, they give you like 2 or 3 cuts from different, 2 or 3 songs for each character. So I already had like 6 songs to learn. And over the course of like 6 or 7 callbacks over the course of like, a month, they added on like Mulligan Madison, Lawrence Phillip, like every role except for Hamilton, basically. So I was in there like learning 15 songs. Lynn was in there a lot of the time. Rap. He would get up and he would rap with me as I was doing a thing, which like just blew my mind. I was like, this is just so cool. If even if I don't get this, that's fine because this is fun. And at the end of all that, it's exactly what you just said. At the end of all of that, they're just looking at me and they're like, thank you. And I'm like, I don't like that hurts. I know exactly what that means. And I got the call like 10 minutes later. They were from my agent just being like, they really like you, but you're too young for this, too old for that, too, whatever. So I just kind of let it go. I was like, that's fine. I had a really great time. And then another like 6 months later, I was coming back into town from doing a show out of town called Hood. And they called me for Alexander Hamilton. And I was like, dope. Like I've never seen myself as a Hamilton necessarily. Like my agents were like, I don't know. I always thought you were a Burr or something like that, but go in. Like this is a great, great team. And so I went in and just kind of had fun with it and said, I'm just going to like do my version of it and just like, see what happens. And something clicked and I booked the tour. So very, very long process. I learned a lot about myself through it. But they put you through the ringer, like no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah. I almost, well, I don't know what I almost booked. That is in my head. That is truly in my head. But I think I got close. And I remember I had to decide between going in for yet another callback or taking Kiss Me Kate. And I had to let Lion King know. And so I was like, you know what? I don't want to go back. Can I just take Kiss Me Kate? Can I just let this go? Yeah. I need to let this go. And my agent was like, okay, I think this is a good decision for you. And I was like, okay, well, we don't have no choice because this is what it's going to be. Yeah. But
the interesting thing is, there was a very similar thing actually when I was auditioning for Wicked, for Fiyero with you. That same thing happened. I got to a point where they're like, like you're in the top, 2 or whatever it was. But we need you to come in for like another audition. And at that time I had booked this like out of town show and I had to basically choose, do I want to go do that or do I want to like, stick around and see how this pans out? And so, I ended up going with the other one, but it's so funny how we have to make those choices. And it's another one of those little like fork in the road moments. It's like, if I had not done that and went and done Fiyero, would I have ever made it to Hamilton? And would I have, who really knows? It's interesting. We getting deep here. This is nice.
I mean, it's real though. It's interesting how everything dips and turns, and you just have. I think for me in that moment, I was like, I don't know about Kiss Me Kate, but I liked the way they treated me in the room. I'm going to go with this. Not that I didn't like how I was treated at Hamilton, but I was just like, I have a good feeling about this. I need to shake it up. I've been at Lion King 3 years. I need to take this. I'd rather take a win than take a maybe.
Yeah, for sure. And you got to go with that. You got to trust your gut at the end of the day. Like there's so much of it that's like out of our control and unknown. Like you got to just, when you got that gut feeling, you got to follow it.
Yeah. Had you done a major tour before? Like
no
huge houses? Because, excuse me, I think it is great to do a tour before you do Broadway because of the house size, right? Like
for sure.
I did the Dirty Dancing tour, and I remember my first show, I was like, oh my God. Because, the houses across the country, there's 1,700, 2,500, huge houses, way bigger than the Broadway houses. And that got me adjusted because when I went in for The Lion King, I was like, I'm at least used to this size of theater. I'm not used to this steel stage. I'm not used to this corset. I'm not used to running and jumping on someone, but I am used to at least this huge house.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I was blown away. They came and they told me, like the last two months that I was on tour, they were just kind of talking to me, trying to get me prepared. They're just like, just so you know, the Broadway house, the Richard Rodgers that Hamilton is at, is gonna feel very, very small to you. Like you're gonna want to turn everything down at least like 4 notches coming in. Because on tour, again, I was doing like 4,500 seat theaters, and the Richard Rodgers is like 1,100, something like that. Like it felt like very, very, very small. And so, yes, having done the tour first and had all of those, huge houses and different energies from different cities and stuff, coming to Broadway, like I didn't have to worry about all that, like because that was my Broadway debut, and then like the thought of this is Broadway and like I'm here and like I've been dreaming about this for so long, like that's enough to like to worry about on your opening night. So I was very lucky to like have gone in with all that experience and having already done the show for a year. Like I was able to really just enjoy it, whereas I probably would have been like just peeing my pants the entire time otherwise.
Oh yeah, I don't even remember my Broadway debut.
Yeah.
Like I remember, I'm serious. Austin's laughing at me. I remember I ran out on stage and I said, Scar. And all I could think of is don't slip, because they still had me in these like gore boots, which had no grip. And I was like, don't slip, Nala's strong. And that's all I remember. And then I bowed and I was like, was it good? Was I any good? Like I have no idea. None.
Right.
Had to block it out. I mean,
I'm sure you were great, but I totally resonate with that because that was like my first show on tour. That is completely gone. I know I like missed some words and was just like everyone around me just had this like equal shares of like fear and concern, but also just like love. They're like, we got you, but do you got you? But I got through it. And it was so fun.
That's so real. I mean, it's lovely too to join a company that's already solid. I think the other side of it is fun too. Joining a company to get everyone's learning it together because you get to bond and you have that rehearsals experience. It's a little daunting. I don't know if you felt this way, rehearsing by yourself and all eyes are on you, and then they put you in the show and you're just like, ooh, it's a lot of, it's a pressure cooker.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, I was calling, like I called James Iglehart, who was a friend of mine from before, and like Javier Munoz. And I was just like, how do I do this? Like I've never played a role this big, let alone a role in a show this big, let alone like not learning it with everyone else, like being just like taught it over here and then just kind of being slid in. So I definitely had a freak out moment, and they were like very great about just kind of like helping me get my feet back on the ground and just say like, yeah, you're the title character, but it's not all about you. And like, you just, at the most you're there to just like help make sure that everyone's on the same team and just kind of like say, hey, I'm gonna show up for you, you show up for me, and like we're gonna get through this. So that helped a lot. But definitely like just balancing the weight of the role and the show on top of the fact that like I knew the first time I was really gonna be able to be with the cast was like the night that I was in front of an audience. Like that was a scary thought for sure.
Yeah, I remember I was meeting people during my put-in. And I was like, I can't, the way the show is set up, I have my moment with Scar. That's my first scene. And then I run around and then I line up for Shadowland. Mind you, they had said, you're going to stand next to Rosie. Well, I had never met Rosie, and I didn't know what Rosie looked like. And I really didn't know where I was supposed to stand. And God bless her, I ran over there and she put her hand out. And I knew where I was supposed to go because she did that. And she's like, I'm Rosie. And everyone's like introducing themselves. And I'm like, but I'm like, oh God, I have to sing now. It was just, it's a very special thing. It's not like going to the office for the first day and meeting everybody, and it's just the pressure is at its utmost on the first day. Yeah. And always.
Isn't it
always.
Cool? Oh, well, that's true. But it never quite feels the same as that first day for sure. But isn't it cool then, like after you've been with the show for a while, you get to be the Rosie? You get to you get to after a while be like, I remember what that was like, and like I'm gonna help you as best I can, which is probably what was going through Rosie and James' mind and all of their minds, and that's just like a really cool evolution to get to go through.
Absolutely. To like to be that support for someone because you know exactly what it feels like.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Very cool. So when as you're going along and you're doing the role over and over and over again, like for me, I only sing 2 songs in my show. And even that was a lot to maintain. So how
Lion King?
Yeah.
Really? Not only got 2 songs?
It's actually such I don't even know, a steal of a role. Like it's really a song and a half if I'm being honest. Cause Can You Feel is like, I'm sharing it with the cast and with Simba. Like, so yeah.
Sure. Ooh, they're good songs though. Cause in my mind, and I've seen that show so many times, I'm like, Nala's it. Like Nala got the dope songs. And that's so interesting. Okay. Right on. Good to know.
How did you maintain yourself is what I'm curious about. Because it seems really taxing.
Yeah, I learned a lot about myself and about self-care for sure, especially on tour. I mean, that was another reason why I was grateful to have done tour first, because like, dealing with the different climates and the altitude and, all of that stuff and the size of the houses, like I had to pick up so many just like tips and tricks and like new routines and everything. So by the time I got to Broadway, like, that was easy because it was pretty much the same thing every night after night. Exactly. But I mean, it took a village. Like I had, a regular PT, a vocal PT, like I was getting massages. I was doing Zoom lessons with my voice coach while I was on tour, and then, going in person when I was in New York, and and just, stretching all the time. And, I talked to nutritionists, and like, there was just so many elements that went into it, as I'm sure you know, of just like keeping my body and my mind and my spirit right, to be able to do that thing night after night. And even with all of that, I mean, I still, about 8 months into the tour, I had a vocal injury and I had to go out for about a week and a half or so. Largely because I just like, I had been trained how to sing. I had been trained how to act. I had been trained how to, I even rapped in in high school, but I didn't really, they don't train you for that. You know what I'm saying? They don't train you how to do theatrical rapping where, you're doing it for 3 hours straight, and you're having to project and you're having to emote and you're having to do all of these things. It's kind of a new beast. And so I think the vocal injury was ended up being very helpful, because it forced me to like go see a specialist, really kind of deconstruct what I was doing, and just build a healthier way, And so now I feel like I can take those into every role that I do from here on out. And it got me through my year on Broadway as well. So it really took a village. So many different people, so many hard lessons, so many just kind of like, 2 steps back in order to go 1 step forward. Like very, very, very interesting year, but I'm grateful for all of it.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look back on it, because I'm sure experiencing it wasn't always, the most positive thing. I don't know. I'm not speaking for you, but I know for me, when I live through things that feel traumatic, I don't know how I'm gonna get past it. And then I look back and I'm like, oh, I needed to experience that. I needed to lose my voice. I needed to figure this out. I needed to learn this about myself. I needed to, I don't know, get stronger physically. Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that you had that village and you had that support, because Hamilton is a beast. I have seen it quite a few times. Unfortunately, I wish I got a chance to see you, because I know you're probably amazing. Austin's nodding his head. Yes, he is. Yes, he's amazing.
Thank you, Austin. I appreciate it.
And so I'm watching the actors on stage and the dancers on stage, and I shouldn't have separated that. I'm watching the performers on stage and I'm thinking, oh my God, like this is wow, Yeah. So kudos to you for figuring it out and learning and taking it with you, life lessons. So moving forward, you made the decision to leave Hamilton, dream show, dream role, dream debut, and do a new show. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So it's a Girl from the North Country. It's a beautiful, beautiful show written by Connor McPherson, and the music is all Bob Dylan's music. And it's a beautiful show. It's set in the 1930s, right, kind of in the middle of the Great Depression in Duluth, in Minnesota, and coming and doing that after 2 years of Hamilton just felt like a breath and a complete switch. And it's definitely its own challenge in its own way. But I think that was one of the main reasons why I chose to do it. I mean, one, it was a chance to originate a role on Broadway, which has always been a dream of mine. But two, I was tired. After 2 years of doing Hamilton, I was tired. And I was ready and excited to do like another year for sure. But then when this opportunity came up, it just felt like the universe saying like, here, just like do something a little different for a minute. And I was so grateful for that. And the cast and the crew were so welcoming, because a lot of them had already done it off Broadway. So I was kind of coming in. There was, only a couple of us that were coming in to do it on Broadway. And they were just so welcoming. And it wasn't like, we've got our way of doing this, so you just got to go along with it. It was very much like we want to break this thing open and like find our new way of doing it and like kind of start from the ground up, and rebuild it. And so I really got to have that like experience of putting a show together, for the first time on Broadway, and like creating my own character and everything. And it was just great. It was really great. We got to open, and like 3 days later we shut down, but at least we got to open. Yeah. We got to do a cast album, which will come out at some point. But yeah, I'm so grateful that I got to experience that and to form that family.
That's amazing. you have your Broadway debut as Hamilton, then you go in and originate a show on Broadway. You get to do a cast album. It's like you're checking off all of the life goals, which is it's remarkable. It's amazing. It's beautiful to watch.
I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful for how it all worked out.
And so while I was doing my research, I discovered that you play Adrian on Pose. And unfortunately, I haven't been keeping up with Pose. Like, I've seen a couple episodes, but I haven't really like dived in like I wanted to. So what was it like playing that character on this show that's really changing the world and bringing shedding light to a community that's not often thought of? And it's just amazing. The little bit that I've seen of the show is remarkable.
Yeah, I mean it's groundbreaking. And again, I mean when I booked that, I was immediately aware of like I'm getting to do this twice. I'm getting to be a part of Hamilton, which is groundbreaking in so many ways, and then getting to be on this show. I just like I couldn't believe how lucky I was. And you know, sure enough, as soon as I got on, I had worked with MJ Rodriguez. She was a friend of mine from before, so I was like, I'm so excited to get to do scenes with her. And but everyone there was just so warm and so welcoming again. And like, I just kept getting lucky. I just kept getting lucky and finding these like really amazing groups of people. And, you know, everyone on set was just like professional and focused, but also like easygoing and, you know, about the work and just having a good time. And so I really, really enjoyed my time on that show. And, it's great. It's incredible. It really is. It is shattering that glass ceiling in so many ways. And I'm excited that it's gaining more and more success as it goes along. It's really well deserved.
Absolutely. I agree. There's so many touching moments, and I really feel like the work that they're doing is going to transform how people see the world. You know, we all live in our little bubbles, and we're fortunate because we're in the arts, so we're exposed to so much. But, you know, if you like Austin and I spent some time with our in-laws in the Midwest during this whole pandemic. And I'm just in communities like that, I feel like they're missing out on seeing the rest of the world and being in a bubble. So I love shows like Pose that open up that world for everyone to see.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
For sure. I mean, anytime I get to like, those are some of the projects and the shows and everything that I get most excited about are the ones that really, really offer just a completely different perspective to people who may not otherwise, you know, seek that out or like understand it. And I think that is like really high art. And sometimes when art is at its like most effective and most important in a societal sense is when it can do that, when it can like hold up a mirror or like open a window and be like, you know, look at it a different way and like have conversations about it and start to change that. And I think both Hamilton and Girl from North Country and definitely Pose do that in different ways. It's beautiful.
You've already done so much. You know, you've just in the matter of 4 years, you've really shifted and changed your life, it sounds like, to really reach some of these goals. And I'm curious because I know the actor mentality. Like, I know that there's more. I know there's more that you want to do. So what else is on your goal list?
You know, I think I would love to do. I've got a couple of projects that are coming up that I wish I could talk about, but I can't, unfortunately. But you know, I would love to do just like some really nuanced about the story, about the characters, like film work. Like I'd love to do some of that and you know, maybe do a series where, you know, like I get to do a few years with it. And stick with it. That'd be really great just to kind of get to build that kind of a character, you know, that can evolve and over time. I think those are probably the two things that are kind of at the top of my list right now. So really setting my sights on that. You know, we're in this time where it's like everything everything is so few and far between in terms of projects. You know, there's not a lot going on. So like all of us actors are going after the same things at the same time. And it, you know, it makes it even harder sometimes to book these things than it was before. But I'm just going to keep on keeping on and, you know.
That's all you can do. That's all you can do. It's a numbers game sometimes. But honestly, having sat down with you today and a few weeks before, you're so charming. You're so lovely. I imagine that you bring that into the audition room and people want to work with people they get along with. It's just the way it is, you know? So don't shoot yourself short. I'm sure you're going to see something. And you've got us excited because you just kind of like dropped a little nugget. Like,
I know.
There's something happening.
I didn't mean to do that. I was like, how do I answer this question without, like, I can't say anything. But yeah, no, it's fun.
We'll all see in good time. And speaking to us all going out for the same projects at the same time, I'm actually reading with my friend later this evening. And she sent me the sides and it is the same audition I just put on tape this morning. I'm not going to tell her. I'll wait till she does her audition. I'll be like, girl, I just auditioned for this morning. But like, we're all vying for the same stuff. And
that happens all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's like, you know, I mean, I think I used to get in my head about that kind of stuff, you know, when I would like see the same people in audition rooms over and over again, or like, you know, when things like this would happen. But, you know, I'm just like getting more and more to that place where I'm like, I'm not competing with anybody else. I'm not competing with other actors. Like I'm competing with the role. I'm competing with what the creator's idea is of that role, you know? And it's like, all I can do is go in there and bring myself to it and like show them my version of it. And they're either gonna like it or not, apples and oranges. But I love that I've gotten to that place because I've spent so much time in the other place and it's not fun. It's just so soul draining, you know, constantly being like, you know, where's my competition? And like, you know, how do I got to beat this person out or I got to, you know, whatever. It's like, it was just exhausting. So I'm glad I'm like finding a new way of thinking about it.
Yeah, I think this isolated period that we're experiencing helps that a little bit too. You don't get to see the people all the time. You're not in the room with everybody. You know, that audition waiting room, it can set you up. It can set you up.
Especially when it was a musical theater thing and you're hearing people like belt the notes and just do these crazy runs. And you're like, well, I know I can't do that. So like, what do I got? Because
like, what are they looking for? Because
exactly.
I mean, you know, being a Black woman and singing in these auditions, like I am not an Effie. I don't have an Effie voice. You know what I mean? Like if you want me to run, then let's plan it. I can plan my runs, and that's what I'm going to sing. But yeah, it's the rooms are just never quite soundproofed enough that you know, you can hear it all. You can hear them laughing. Oh, they like them. Yay.
And I'm like, how long have we been doing this that y'all can't soundproof your rooms better? Like, I'm like, like that almost feels intentional at this point. Like you want us to sweat a little bit out there. You think it's going to bring something out of us. It does.
That makes me think back to that audition, that Hamilton audition room. The smallest room at Telsey is like, they could see the beads of sweat on your forehead, you know? Oh my gosh.
And I'm sure they probably, I mean, it's like, it's Hamilton. So I'm sure that they chose that for a reason. They wanted that. They wanted that up close and personal. I'm like, okay, I see what y'all doing.
I see. Yeah.
I see. I have not missed this little, I'm not throwing away my shot. I did catch it like entirely too late, like halfway through this, but I'm like, oh, dope. Much appreciated.
Yes. We have to do a nod to everybody. We do a little something, you know, depending on whoever it is. For my friend Stephanie, she's a huge Disney fan, so we did a Disney quote instead, you know.
Oh, I love that.
So we're about to get into the stage door round where I'm going to ask you a question that you might have gotten at the stage door. Speaking of the stage door, what was the stage door like on tour? I imagine that it was wild.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it depended on the city, depended on the night. But there were certain times when it would take me 25 minutes to get through everybody at the end of the show. It was great. I mean, even Hamilton, there would be some shows that just like were just, you know, packed, like 20 people deep out into the street, and I'm like, that seems dangerous. That's a hazard. We got to do something about this. But yeah, it was crazy. But then there would be some cities where there'd be like 2 people outside. And I'm like,
hey.
Hey, sure. I don't know why that is, but I'm not gonna think too hard about it. And it's a nice, it means I get a little break. So, but yeah, most nights it was pretty amazing.
I think too, it's maybe some cities just don't know it's a thing that you can actually
True.
go over there and
Very true.
meet the actors, because if they knew,
Very true.
you might get swarmed. Seriously.
That's very, very true. Very true. I mean, I think back to like when I would go see shows. I grew up in like the San Francisco area. When I would go see shows out there wasn't one, at least not that I knew of. So
Adrian and I hope that you have enjoyed listening to the show thus far. If you'd like to hear the full interview and get access to the curtain call, head on over to 32barcut.com, where you can find a link to our Patreon page. There you will have exclusive access to the entire video collection and private RSS podcast feed, as well as other subscriber-only content. All right, that's all I got. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.